Imagine living without toilets and being surrounded by waste every day. The reality was far more disgusting and dangerous than you think. For most of human history, people lived without flush toilets, sewer pipes, or treatment plants. Yet every community still had the same daily problem: how to handle human waste, dirty water, and garbage in a way that did not make life unbearable. This video explains the main systems people used before modern toilets, why many cities struggled with filth, and how waste and water helped certain diseases spread. It also explains an important point that is often missed. Many people did try to manage waste with rules, workers, and basic infrastructure. The results depended on population size, local geography, and how well communities enforced those systems. Start with a simple fact: when a town is small and spread out, waste can be managed with space. When a town becomes dense, waste becomes a shared problem. A single household can bury waste, dump it far away, or spread it on fields. But thousands of households doing the same thing in tight streets create constant piles, overflowing pits, and contaminated water sources. The most common toilet for ordinary people in many places was not a special room at all. It was a container, or a pit. At night, families often used chamber pots, then emptied them later. During the day, many relied on outdoor privies, simple seats over a pit. These pits could be lined with wood or stone, but they still filled up. A basic pit privy has one main advantage: it separates waste from daily living space. But it has major limits. First, it eventually fills. Second, liquids soak into surrounding soil. If a well or water source is nearby, contamination becomes more likely. Third, in heavy rains or floods, pits can overflow. And in dense neighborhoods, there may be no safe place to dig new pits. To deal with full pits, many towns developed a removal system. In parts of Europe, especially in larger cities, specialized workers emptied cesspits and privies. In early modern England, they were sometimes called nightmen or gong farmers because the work was often done at night. Night work reduced the disruption, reduced complaints about smell, and avoided crowds. The waste they removed was often called night soil. Removing waste sounds like a solution, but it created another question: where did it go next? If a city moved night soil outside the walls to dumping grounds, the problem shifted to the edges of town. If it went into nearby rivers or streams, the city's waterway became a moving trash pit. In many places, waste was not only something to get rid of, it could be a resource. Human waste contains nutrients. In some societies, waste collection connected city life with farming. When farmers could safely use manure, it reduced the need for other fertilizers. But safely is the key word. If human waste is used fresh on crops, it can spread parasites and intestinal infections. Systems that treated or aged waste longer could reduce risk, but those steps required time, space, and careful handling. Now consider everything that was not human waste but still ended up in the same environment. Town life produced animal manure from horses and livestock, ash from fires, food scraps, broken pottery, and wastewater from cooking, washing, and small industries. Even if people used privies for solid waste, they still had grey water, like used wash water, that went somewhere. In many pre-modern cities, grey water ran into the street. Streets were not only for walking, they were working spaces. People cooked, cleaned, repaired tools, and kept animals close by. When wastewater ran into open gutters, it mixed with mud and manure. In dry weather, it could harden into crusty layers. In wet weather, it became sludge. Some towns had rules against dumping waste into the street. City governments and neighborhood groups understood that filth caused bad smells and visible decay, and they often connected foul air with illness. Even before modern germ theory, people could see that dirty conditions were linked to sickness. But rules were only as strong as enforcement. When a city grew fast, officials could not inspect every yard and alley. And when families were poor, paying for waste removal was not always possible. A key turning point in sanitation history is the difference between drainage and sewage. Drainage moves water away, especially rainwater and floodwater. Sewage is human waste and dirty water from households. Ancient Rome is often described as having advanced sanitation because it had sewers, public latrines, and famous engineering like the Cloaca Maxima. But even there, the system did not work like a modern sewer network. Rome's major sewers began mainly as storm drains to control flooding. Some latrines connected into drains, and baths and fountains produced flows of water that could carry waste along. However, this did not mean that every home had a safe connection, or that waterways were clean. Public toilets could be crowded, and cleaning methods were limited by today's standards. After the Roman world, many European towns used a mix of pits, cesspits, and open drains. Castles and monasteries sometimes had latrines built into walls, dropping waste into pits at the base of the structure, or sometimes into moats. That might move waste away from living rooms, but it could also foul water and create intense local pollution. In dense neighborhoods, cesspits became common. A cesspit is a dug hole meant to collect waste and wastewater. In practice, cesspits often leaked. They also attracted insects and rodents. When they filled, they had to be emptied. The job could be organized, but it remained hazardous. So why did streets become filled with filth in so many accounts? Because several streams of waste converged in the same place. First, animal power dominated transport. Horses and other animals produced manure constantly. Second, households produced food scraps, ash, and broken materials. Third, many trades produced waste, tanning, dyeing, butchering, brewing, and metalworking. Fourth, even when a city had privies, people still dumped liquids into open gutters. And fifth, in overcrowded housing, many people shared too few privies, leading to overflow and improper disposal. The next major issue is water. Waste does not spread disease equally through all routes. The most dangerous situations often involve drinking water contaminated by human waste. Before modern plumbing, many people collected water from wells, rivers, springs, public fountains, or water carriers. If a well sat near a leaking cesspit, contamination could seep through soil. If a river served as both a dumping place and a water source, the risk increased even more. For a long time, many people explained disease through ideas like miasma, meaning bad air from rotting material. The smell was real, and the connection between filth and illness seemed obvious. But the strongest link for deadly outbreaks like cholera was often water, not smell. Cholera became a major urban terror in the 1800s. It spread rapidly in crowded cities with unsafe water. During the 1854 outbreak in London, Dr. John Snow argued that cholera spread through contaminated water. By mapping cases and comparing water sources, he showed strong evidence that people drinking from a specific pump were at far higher risk. This kind of work helped build the case that controlling sewage and protecting drinking water could prevent mass death. London is also a clear example of how an old waste system can break under new pressures. As London's population grew, older drains and cesspits could not keep up. At the same time, more households adopted water closets, which used water to flush waste. That sounds like improvement, but it created a new problem. Flushed waste entered a system that was not designed to carry it away safely. Instead of staying in pits to be emptied, more waste moved into waterways. In the hot summer of 1858, the stench from the Thames became so intense that it became known as the Great Stink. The smell was an alarm bell, but the deeper issue was that the river was being used as a sewer. In response, London built a major new sewer system under the leadership of engineer Joseph Bazalgette. The key concept was interception. Instead of letting waste flow directly into the center of the Thames, large interceptor sewers collected sewage and carried it downstream, away from the heart of the city. This kind of infrastructure did not appear overnight. It required government planning, heavy construction, and large budgets. But it shows the direction sanitation took once cities accepted that waste management was a public system, not only a private household problem. Stepping back, pre-modern waste systems can be grouped into a few main models. Model 1 is dispersal. People deposit waste on open land, in pits far from water sources, or across wide spaces. This works best for small populations. Model 2 is containment. Waste goes into pits, cesspits or containers, and stays there until it is moved. This can work for larger settlements, but only if removal is regular and disposal sites are managed. Model 3 is conveyance. Waste is carried away through channels, drains or sewers, usually using water. This requires engineering and maintenance. Without treatment, it often shifts pollution downstream. In real life, cities combine these models. A town might use pits for most homes, public latrines for crowded areas, open gutters for wastewater, and a river as the final dumping point. Now consider the human side. Who did the work? Waste management required labor that many societies pushed onto the lowest status workers. Emptying cesspits, hauling barrels, cleaning streets, and managing dumps were essential for city life. Yet the workers faced danger, social stigma, and constant exposure to disease. Even with workers and rules, systems failed when growth outpaced capacity. The most important factor was density. Once neighborhoods became crowded and poor, with too few privies and limited clean water, waste piled up faster than it could be removed. The streets and yards became the overflow zones. So what was daily life like in these environments? It often meant stepping over muddy waste in narrow lanes, dealing with constant odors, washing with limited water, and living close to insects and rodents. Food preparation happened near waste sources. Children played near contaminated ground. And during outbreaks of intestinal disease, people could become sick quickly because the same water sources served many households. At the same time, it is important to be accurate. Not every pre-modern street was permanently covered in waste, and not every city ignored sanitation. Many places built drains, posted ordinances, hired cleaners, and developed removal schedules, but the tools were limited. Without modern water treatment, without sealed pipes, and without reliable disposal or treatment plants, even a well-run system could break during heavy rain, flooding, war, or rapid population growth. The long-term lesson is that toilets are only one part of sanitation. A toilet without safe waste removal can make a city worse by concentrating waste and moving it into shared water. The full system requires three connected parts: a place to deposit waste, a method to transport it away from daily life, and a way to treat it or dispose of it without poisoning the community. Before modern sanitation, many societies had the first part, some had the second part, and very few had the third part in a consistent citywide way. That gap between collection and safe disposal helps explain why filth built up, why water sources became dangerous, and why certain diseases could spread so rapidly in crowded streets.